And you still have to record.
See.
Dude, is Jim ever going to come back, you think?
Yeah. All right. We're good to go.
I think so. One day. How come he's not here tonight?
Warning. The Catholic Man Show contains high levels of manliness. It's simple, really. You either want to grow in virtue and holiness, or you want to be a sissy, whiny baby. If you choose to move forward, grab your whiskey glass, because the Catholic Man Show is starting right now.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass. Hope everybody's just having just a fruitful or efficacious Lent. Should we just start saying instead of Happy Lent or something like that? Some people try to do that, and it's like that's kind of.
I say Happy Lent sometimes, but it never really quite feels right.
It doesn't ring. It doesn't hit.
It doesn't. That's exactly right.
I don't think efficacious.
I do
efficacious Lent. I don't think that also really.
What else have I said? I used to say something else that was kind of like that. Anyway.
May you suffer well.
Yeah, I don't remember. I had a phrase.
Yeah.
It also never caught on. I can't even remember what it was.
But it was good.
Yeah, it was. It was precise in its wording, and I felt good about it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this scotch. What do you think?
Yeah, because I haven't tasted it yet, but I can smell it.
Does it smell smoky?
It smells like it's yes. Yeah,
so let's see. This is
it smells like what I like.
Yes. This is a Tobermory distillery whiskey. It is called Ledaig.
Ledaig.
It's spelled Ledaig.
So of course you would pronounce that Ledaig.
Ledaig. Yes. It's off of the Isle of Mull,
which I have never heard of.
It's the only distillery in the Isle of Mull, and Tobermory has been a distillery that has been kind of hurting financially at times, and has kind of gone through ebbs and flows, as a lot of distilleries have, right?
Sure.
With either prohibition or
prohibition is like wiped a lot of them out.
And then the 70s and 80s was whiskey wasn't a cool thing to drink, and so all whiskey prices went down astronomically. A lot of them closed up shop, and slowed the roll, because it's not like production you can just ramp back up,
right?
But they had about 2019 or something like that. They had a kind of a rebranding of Tobermory, and this is Ledaig is supposed to be palatable like an Islay Scotch, so smoky, peaty. They say the reason why is because the water comes down that they use for the whiskey actually runs underneath a peat. I don't know what you call it, patch or peat land. So apparently, I don't know if that's kind of a marketing scheme or not.
When I hear stuff like that, it's like, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
It tastes this way because
you use the peat because you smoke it.
You burn the crap. You exactly.
But anyway, that's what they say. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be a rich peat, smoke, and spice flavor. So let's try it out. We're on the Lord's team,
the winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. I also picked this up just because I haven't seen it, and maybe it's just because it is a rebranding, and maybe I would see it if I saw a different bottle.
That is really nice. So it's not as peaty as I thought it was going to be. It's a lot sweeter, but it still is smoky. It is peaty, but I like it. I mean, it's really nice.
That is nice.
It's actually kind of an interesting blend, because when I first opened the bottle,
it's a very Lagavulin-esque.
Yeah, it's more like Lagavulin, but on the nose it was straight up Lafroig.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like.
But this tastes more like Lagavulin.
Just in the glass in front, like on the table, I could smell it and was like, oh man, that smells like Lafroig. It does not taste like that.
It tastes more like Lagavulin.
Like Lagavulin, there's a lot more. Lafroig is like all peat and all smoke.
Mm-hmm.
This has a lot more going on.
It has that like almost saltiness at the end that a Lafroig does.
How much was this?
You know what, dude? I bought this before Christmas, I think.
Moons ago.
So I don't really remember.
All right.
Probably around the $70 to $80 range.
Okay.
But it's delicious.
Very fair.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. I have never heard of it. Never seen it. So might be hard to find. Lechik. Ledaig. It should be Ledaig.
Yeah. But it's not. How's everything going at the farm? Oh, I'm sorry. We have Juan here as well in the studio.
Juan.
Juan, it's great to see you. Great to have you here. You haven't been here. The last couple of weeks you haven't been here at least.
Nope. Been playing hard to get.
Oh, well, it's working.
Because it was hard to get you here. So.
Yeah.
But the farm, there are ups and downs on the farm.
Yes.
We lost a chicken this week.
Darn
It just is gone, which is fine. Like, it's better than, like, finding a dead chicken. Because now you have to, like, do something with a dead chicken.
Yeah, bury it.
Yeah. Or burn it, which actually is terrible. I tried to burn a chicken one time that was dead. It takes forever for, like, a body to go away.
Yeah.
Like, from burning. Anyway. And 2 of the piglets are sick right now.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. This afternoon, one of them was just very lethargic, just laying there, seemingly very weak. So I don't know what the issue is. I was feeding it by hand today. Mm-hmm. Just mixing up some milk with an egg. Get some protein and some good vitamins.
Calcium.
Up in there.
Yeah.
And so they're quarantined right now. There's 2 of them. They're quarantined. I don't know what it is. Hope it's not swine flu.
That'd be the worst.
Because can't you get that too?
I think
like
so.
People can also get, and it's like really bad.
Yeah.
But that's the farm. We did something really exciting today.
Okay.
Which I highly recommend.
Okay, you're really hyping this up.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay.
We went to the scrapyard.
Oh yeah, cool.
It was awesome. So Davey and I loaded up. Actually, I took all the kids, but like an idiot, I was like a mile away when I realized I don't have my wallet, and I thought it's just going to the scrap. I'm just like dumping off some metal. Surely, maybe it'll be okay. It's not okay.
No, they
gotta have your ID. Mm-hmm. So I turned around, came back that afternoon with just Davey, and it was everything that I wanted it to be. Like huge. I don't even know what you call them, like claw things. Mm-hmm. Just with mountains of like, junk. Then they're just like picking it up and dumping it on this huge conveyor belt that goes up into this massive building where it's just getting shredded. Mm-hmm. Like whole cars at a time.
Yeah.
And so we were there watching it all, waiting like in a long line. It was sweet. It was so awesome.
Nice.
I took 1,160 pounds of scrap. It was mostly T-posts and welded wire fencing.
Did you get like $2?
Dude, I got $116. It was
nice.
way more than I thought. I also thought it's like I'm gonna, like I told Pamela before I go, the money I get, I'm hoping will pay for the gas
to get there.
Get there.
Nice.
And like I had no idea. So that was cool.
Nice.
But 1,000 pounds is a lot of.
It's a lot.
I mean, you don't very often have
that much.
1,100 pounds of just scrap
metal
sitting around.
Yeah.
Which I did.
So we've implemented a new thing in the Minahan house.
Oh.
Interested to get your thoughts.
Okay. I'm interested to think them.
For dinner, not every like about 3 times a week. For dinner, we pray. We have a very brief family conversation, kind of like a State of the Union, like how's everybody doing? What's everybody,
Okay.
We sit down and we eat.
I'm sure the kids love that.
Well, it's their turn to talk. Like, how are you? How was school? So
Okay.
everybody gets to, talk.
Uh-huh.
And then no talking for the rest of dinner. And we're listening to an audiobook.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The Hobbit.
Ooh.
Three
So-
times a week?
Yeah, about roughly 3 times a week. I didn't want to do it every day because I also the dinner table is kind of a sacred time.
Yeah. I think you need conversation at the because I also thought about doing that when I first was getting enamored with the monks at Clear Creek. Oh, let's do this. We can chant. I'll read a book or audio. No talking, silence. And then the more I thought about it, it's no. Actually, there's a lot of lessons that are learned about how to have a conversation and how to so you can't totally.
Yeah. So we're doing
Give
it
that.
also because for school purposes, for reading retention or audio retention to understand what's happening in the story. What did you hear? So afterwards, it's not like we just listen to it and then throw the dishes, put the dishes away and
Yeah.
move on. We stop, we talk about it. What did you hear? What was kind of the story? What was happening? Who was in there? What did they say?
Yeah.
To try to get them to regurgitate what they had just heard.
So is this the first book you're starting?
Yes.
The Hobbit. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
So we'll see how it goes.
Have your kids? Are they familiar with the story?
No.
Okay.
No.
They're gonna love it.
I hope so. They're not liking it thus far.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, they'll get into it. I mean,
We just finished chapter 1.
Yeah,
So
oh,
it's
yeah. Yeah, there's just a bunch of weird stuff that happens in
Yeah,
the beginning.
a lot
All
of
these
names.
names that they're not familiar with.
Right.
I mean, give them time. There's There's a dragon.
right.
There's
Dragons just got introduced at the very
war.
end. Yeah,
So
So we'll see how it goes.
sweet. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan. Juan Posada in his producer chair. He's just over there producing.
Hardcore.
Look at him. Look at him
Hardcore
just
producing.
produce.
Yeah. With the mullet of the flowing hair.
Shake it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
The
That's
Arkansas waterfall is what they call it in work.
The Arkansas.
The Arkansas waterfall.
Wow, that's awesome. We don't have Jim today, by the way, for I don't know, the 3rd or 4th week in a row.
I feel nervous, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
I feel vulnerable
Yeah.
without the bodyguard here.
Yeah. Shout out to our new patrons. We're continually getting new patrons. We appreciate all your support. We have thank you gifts coming at you. Now, here's the deal. With thank you gifts, Jim sends it. He's our shipping logistics manager as well. And he typically ships it once a month to try because. So if you, I say that to say if you just signed up, beginning of the month and you've been waiting, you're like, where's my stuff?
Yeah.
Give it a little time.
We're not Jeff Bezos.
Right. We're not Amazon. This is,
I wish I was Jeff Bezos, though.
man.
In some ways.
Yeah.
Not in all ways. I just
Mainly financially.
personally, I just like to be insanely wealthy. Because I wouldn't let it go to my head.
No.
That's the thing.
The thing about you,
Right. I know
There's no way.
it just has this corrupting influence on everybody else. I just don't think it would happen to me.
Lord, test me.
Yeah. Let me prove it to you, Lord.
Dude, I'm shocked. Your body is intact and feeling good. You're breathing well. It's in the middle of Lent and you
I have not had any nothing has happened to me yet.
no lungs collapsed, no
Yeah, I haven't even gone to the hospital.
your shoulders
Totally
still
fine.
intact.
Yeah.
Swine flu, though, is coming.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
swine
gonna
flu, yeah.
get about to get swine flu.
So that'll be great.
In fact, you guys should probably have an emergency, drink.
Just in case.
Boost up a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm contagious.
I don't know if I'm going to make it.
I do think people I think a lot of people died
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last time it went around, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, hey, so
They
tonight,
don't tell you that when you watch these YouTube videos that say like, get pigs, it'll be great. They don't talk about the swine flu.
that would be the worst. Like, have to go up for your judgment. St. Peter calls your name. You walk up and you're like, I'm really sorry I died from swine flu.
You know what? It's like dying at the hands of a pig in any way. It's
a bummer. It's the way you'd want to go.
It hurts.
It's the way you'd want to go.
No. It just hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
Will it be retributive justice for all the pigs you've eaten?
No,
No.
it wouldn't.
Okay.
Because I'm worth infinitely more than them.
So tonight I thought we'd talk about magnanimity. We had an episode about that a while back ago.
Yeah.
But we haven't discussed it in a while. It's been on my it was on my heart.
Too true. Okay.
To talk about magnanimity. Mainly, well, I shouldn't say mainly, but one of the things that made me start thinking about it was, we've been reading the Sunday Great Book, or we've been attending the Sunday Great Books with Deacon Harrison Garlic. We've talked about this before. We were going through kind of reading the classics.
Totally.
And one of the major themes, especially in the Iliad and the Odyssey, things like this, is like, what is fortitude? What is honor? What is, what are these things?
Aratea.
Yeah, arete. Yeah.
Arete, not aratea.
Arete, yeah. Like, what is virtue, right?
Yeah, and excellence.
What is excellence? And in the Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle, like he starts the baseline of like what is magnanimity, right? Which Aquinas picks up on, expounds on, but he talks. So I guess we'll define what magnanimity is, right? So magnanimity is, by its very very name, denotes stretching forth the mind to great things. A man that is said to be magnanimous is chiefly because he is minded to do a great act. So it's the desire to do great things, right? Your soul has a desire to ascend, right? To be drawn towards our God, and to do great things. And this, our Lord talks about this, or St. Paul talks about this, right? That you do greater things than Christ. Like, that's almost a scandalous verse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know, Jesus like died for all of our sins and rose from the dead. That's a pretty big deal.
Right. I haven't seen anyone do that.
Right.
Because that really was my favorite.
But I think there's a lack of magnanimity. Like, we don't talk about it as much in the culture today. There's a lack of magnanimity, especially in our culture of this call to greatness.
Totally. I think that's totally true. And I think it kind of is all in orbit with the fact that we have just gotten so far removed from a sense of honor. Okay? There's no shred of honor culture left in American society today. And I think that's probably true about developed countries worldwide. I think that somehow we've all moved past it, and it's all about like you. No, forget everybody else. You got to take care of number one first. Obviously you have to do what's right for yourself. Right. That's the mantra. And so men don't even have a concept. It's not even like they're not even aware of like their own honor and pursuing it for its for their own reputation in a good way, right? And so you're not going to be interested in doing great things if you're not even if you don't even care about your own greatness,
right?
Well,
and as our culture kind of like lends itself to being slothful, right? It just kind of falling is like, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you go to sleep, you get up, you go work, you come home, you go to, like, you kind of get into this monotonous rhythm where you don't really actually think about like, what am I doing? Like, what am I called to do today? What is the Lord asking of me today?
Right. Instead of being intentional about going to work.
Right.
Just doing it.
Right. Just, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to pull something that I found this just amazing gem. I don't know how many of these have been published, because it's a dissertation from a priest back in the 1920s, New Yorker from the Bronx. But he wrote his dissertation for Catholic University of America, and it's entitled "An Activity Analysis of the Four Cardinal Virtues Suggested by the Writings of St. Thomas." And it's just a fascinating book because it goes through literally the things that you would have to do to obtain the virtues that St. Thomas Aquinas is talking about. We were just talking...
Like in list fashion?
In list fashion, yes, which is phenomenal, right? To just kind of be practical about it, right? But, we were talking about how the pagans, Aristotle, how they viewed magnanimity, right? Versus how a Christian lens views magnanimity, right? Because we were talking about how we were reading the great books, the Iliad, the Odyssey, and like what did they mean by honor, by virtue, and things like that, by fortitude, because magnanimity is a sub-virtue of fortitude.
Which is interesting. Like, I think that's an interesting place to put it. I get it. But it just...
Where else would
I
you
don't
put
know. I don't know. I don't think about magnanimity as a sub-virtue. I mean... I don't know. Like, I think I would put it just under charity, like as its own... I mean, everything's a sub-virtue of charity.
Is call to greatness, though? It's like,
Yeah. No, I get it. It just kind of strikes... It's like, oh, it surprises me at first to hear that. But, like I said, I recall that.
From
that's where other people have put it.
So he talks about... He breaks it down, like the difference between Christian fortitude versus how the pagans viewed it. I'm going to read this little part just because I think it's very interesting. He says, the fundamental motives of pagan and Christian fortitude are essentially different. The braving of death is the highest act of bravery for each, but for the pagans, it is the death on the battlefield, honorable in sight at the state of one's own countrymen, or death by one's own hands in the face of difficulties, while the Christian... the highest type of bravery is found in the death of the martyr, which he meets without resistance. So he says he dies almost as a mockery of his countrymen, a fool in the eyes of the world, but a saint in the eyes of God. It is not therefore the suffering itself, but rather the motive of the suffering that must be considered. So, pagan, Christian, they both, a call to greatness, a call to lay oneself, your life down for one's country, for one's
both good
neighbors,
Yeah.
But one is for like the sake of the honor of just doing it, and the other is like dying, even to the point where you'd kill yourself before you would die in dishonor from another from the enemy, and the other one is a willful lack of resistance to the death.
Right, like a submitting.
A willful.
Yeah.
So.
Very receptive.
I thought that was a good breakdown of the difference between how fortitude was really thought of from the moment of Aristotle, in the pagan times versus the Christian times.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for a pagan, the idea of the afterlife it's a very earthly concept.
It's a very carnal.
Right, you live
idea.
on in your other people remembering you. I mean, obviously different.
And
pagans,
you go to the drinking hall.
Yeah, different pagans have different ideas about what eternal.
You go and basically party.
Right. Which is weird.
So when we get back, I want to talk about what is opposed to magnanimity. There's 4 things that are opposed to magnanimity.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about the 33 ways to grow.
33 of the ways.
Of the ways to grow in magnanimity.
All right. I doubt we're making it through all 33.
Oh, I mean, there's not... Some of them it's like, yep, okay.
All right.
Not going to be a lot of commentary on that.
I agree.
Yeah. So, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Talking about magnanimity. this call to greatness, the soul's desire to do great things for the love of Christ.
Speaking of great things, this whiskey
is great.
It's very great.
Yes. So it's this idea that man is called to do great things, right? To do even in the face of the arduous, right? In the face of things that are going to be hard, but you're still going to do them.
I don't want to take up too much time with this because people really want to know more, but they can go listen to the other episode we did on. But I just like real briefly, can you just talk about the dynamic between pursuing great things and doing like, oh yes, like seeking after like greatness and pride, like.
Okay, well, that actually is. So let's talk about the things that are opposed to magnanimity, because this actually works really well with this.
Okay, good.
So one of the things that opposes magnanimity is what's called presumption, which is pride. Because you basically say to be bold in our actions because of an exaggerated opinion of ourselves. So it's this idea that I am called to this great, like that I'm called to this thing that is actually higher than what I am according to my state in life. Like I'm not called right now, and hopefully never, to be a politician, to be like the vice president, right? So I shouldn't be.
It's because you're too smart.
Considering, yeah. So I shouldn't be considering the decisions that the vice president should be making.
Right.
And like going and say like, here's what we should be doing. You know, it's like, well, that, like what? Slow your roll. Who are you to be saying that?
Right. You're also not the general.
Right.
Of the army.
And I think this is also like, you can put this in Catholic terms, right? Because it's very easy to say with our Catholic hierarchy is like, you should be doing this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, hold on. Well, like, who are you to be saying that?
Right. Yeah. So we also don't want to presume that we are great.
Right.
Because like doing great things is great. Okay. And so if a person is doing great things, then they are doing it if they're habitually disposed, which would give them the virtue of magnanimity, then they would, have this virtue. So you don't want to just presume, I do that. Right. I'm also magnanimous. Right. So I don't have to do that because, you don't want to think about yourself. Magnanimity is one of these tricky virtues. It's sort of like humility.
Yeah.
Where like the more you think yourself in possession of it, the more dangerous territory you're in. It doesn't mean that you're wrong.
Right.
Because the humble person can rightly say, I am humble. As long as he
Moses.
As long as he recognizes
he
rightly.
was like the most humble person in the world.
And he wrote it.
Yeah. So
So
presumption's one.
Okay.
And the other side of that, the other extreme, ambition.
Okay.
Maybe it's not the other side of the coin, but it's
another facet.
Another facet, yeah, would be ambition, right? Is because you're desiring to do these great things, but it's in an inordinate desire for a position of dignity or for the clout.
Yeah. So this is, once again, there's a lot. Magnanimity I think it has more caveats than most virtues. Because yes, you do want to pursue greatness for greatness' sake. Not for your sake, okay? So you're not doing it because it will make you look good. You're doing it because it's great. So whether somebody's watching or not, it doesn't matter to you. You're just pursuing the greatness for greatness' sake.
That's right.
Not for your sake. It's sometimes hard to tell the difference in the moment, right?
This is why the virtue is important, right? The habitual disposition of your will to do those great things.
Yes, exactly. Where the intellect has already been, you have this disposition. You're just going to do it because you've already like practiced it. If you sit there and have to think about it all the time, well, then sometimes when in the process of over intellectualizing things, that's when you're like, oh, well, also like there's a lot of people here who would see me do what, like, and so.
Which is the next one, actually, vainglory.
There you go.
So you have presumption, ambition, vainglory, which is glory to your wisdom or your strengths, that God has given you. So it's like these are good things. The Lord has given you certain graces, certain aspects of that only you can do
Right.
for your mission that He has for you in this life. But they're not yours. He's given them to you to give back to Him for His greater glory.
And to others, yeah. Once again, we talked about in our last episode the idea of stewardship. This is like, once again, you've received all these gifts from God. Stewardship is the right attitude to properly use them.
Yeah.
So that you can give them back.
Right. The last one is a pusillanimity, which is cowardice.
What is the word again?
Pusillanimity.
Okay, so we found a word harder to say than magnanimity.
Yeah. Pusillanimity.
Let me see it.
I think it's like pusillanimity.
Okay, this is small writing here. Pusillanimity.
Yeah.
Pusillanimity. Wow. All right. Sweet. Words are hard.
And this is to be, to be faint-hearted, to be too retiring, cowardice or timidness, to not be willing to do it.
Yeah.
This is the only one out of all of them. So the first three are on pride, goes against pride. The last one is effeminacy.
Gotcha.
So the four that are opposed to magnanimity, presumption, ambition, vainglory, and pusillanimity. Maybe?
Pusillanimity.
Yeah. So in this book that I was just talking about, by Father, I meant to say his name because I don't think I did today. By Father Cyprian Mincing. So I know that we have some New Yorkers out there that you listen to the podcast. Loved it. Like if you are some history buff or something like that, he's a friar, OFM, went to CUA. Love to get more background on him. He didn't really have a whole lot. I looked him up. It was kind of not much on the internet about him.
Huh, okay.
But anyway, so he gives the activities of the different virtues like I was talking about. He actually gives 120 activities to grow into magnanimity, because why not? You're this call to greatness. Like, it should be a great number.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is.
120. So we're just going to try to get through as many as we can. Hopefully 33.
That's our goal.
That's our goal.
Which is a great goal.
So I'll just kind of start reading. I'll read some, maybe get your raw thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, so it tend towards the arduous and the difficult.
Is that the first one, or that's a category?
Nope, that's the first one. To tend towards
Okay.
the arduous and the difficult.
Yep.
And this is something that, to me, it's like, even when you're at work, right? You have a whole list of things you have to get done today.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, it's very easy to say, like, "Ooh, I want to do the one that I like the most."
Yeah,
or that's
the one
the
that's
easiest.
easier, right.
Which
Which I do. I mean, very often.
it's very
I
easy
do.
to do that.
Saint Mother Teresa, she talks about this, about always choosing the most difficult task first, as a way to grow in humility as well.
But it's like this submission of you're training your will to the desire to do the hardest thing first. So the next one, to strive to accomplish great and lofty things.
Okay.
To undertake leadership without misgiving. I think that's an interesting one.
What's misgiving?
Yeah.
I think what he means here, like, is to undertake leadership without the desire to be, like, get like for somebody to be like, oh man, yeah, you're the leader, like, to get the accolades. That's what I was trying to say.
I do think that there's something integral to magnanimity with leadership. I think that, like, leadership is one of the essential elements. It's one of the essential ingredients in the recipe, that you kind of can't be magnanimous without being a leader in some way.
Totally. So I think what it really means is like jumping into it without like the desire to have the accolades, for people to say like, oh man, Juan, I knew you could do this. Like, I'm so glad you're the leader. You're just so, and just starts giving you all these accolades about your leadership style. To discuss and administer lofty undertakings with a certain broad and noble purpose of mind.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Number 5, to be ready to fight for our laws, our lives, and our country. So it's basically fortitude, right? Like this willingness to lay down one's life, to enter into battle.
Yeah, I like that, to be willing to fight for our laws. That kind of goes against the grain of modern society,
modernity,
which basically views laws as forms of oppression, which they can't. Law, obviously, a bad law is oppressive, but
because as Deacon Garlic talks about all the time, the law is a teacher.
It is. The law is a teacher. For instance, if you make something legal, then that it has this effect on the people that says this thing is good, like abortion, for instance.
It's not good.
If you legalize abortion, then that has this. It's basically like saying, then it's okay. Then abortion is good or fine. It's not bad.
Right.
So,
number 6, to protect or rescue the needy and the afflicted.
Obviously,
which I like that. I mean,
yeah,
I like the
that
different. It seems like
I like that one's specific about.
Right.
I know what that means also.
Number 7, to make good use of power over others. I think this one's very this one to me kind of blends between justice and fortitude, which I think a lot of times you have to make decisions and have the courage to do it, to do a great thing for the act of justice, like for justice's sake.
Jesus talks about this. He who would be the greatest, be the servant of all. That's like people with power. That's your job.
Right. So we'll keep this going on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles. With Adam Minahan talking about magnanimity. And after the 4th segment today, Adam is going to, without looking, spell magnanimity.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Don't look.
Okay.
Even now, don't look.
Okay. So we're talking about ways to grow in magnanimity.
Okay.
For the break, we said to make good use of the power over others.
Yeah, I like that. It reminds me, to me, that's what I think about fatherhood, right? But it applies to anybody with authority. That you've been given authority. It's not for your own sake. A real king, he's not given authority just because he's better than everybody else, and he deserves to be worshipped. He's given authority so that he can serve everyone, and so that's the call to greatness with power.
Well, even from the business perspective, right? Simon Sinek has a great book called "Leaders Eat Last." And I think that's the title of the book. Juan, will you look that up for me just to make sure I said that right? But I think it's "Leaders Eat Last." Simon Sinek. But this is the whole idea. Listen, if you are a leader in business, you have the duty.
Sí.
That is correct?
Sí.
Nice. You have the duty to wield your authority over these people for the good, and remember that these are human people, right? This is Catholic social teaching, right? Remember, reminding them that, or knowing that these are people. This is not a cog in the machine,
right?
So, okay, number 9, to act valiantly for the delivery of church and state.
For the delivery of church and state.
Yeah. I actually skipped one. Sorry. 8 was to encounter hindrances and difficulties bravely.
Yeah, that's it. Totally.
Which, again, another one of those things, it has to do with your will. You just intellectually, you don't want to do it, right? Because it's this is the hard, this is something difficult. But you have to train your will to say, nope, we're going to do this.
So much of these things, they boil down to just being a real man. When you think about
what is,
when you think about that, your idea about a real man does this, that last one. A real man doesn't shy. It's yes, there are difficult things to be done today, and we're going to do them, and we're not going to put them off. That's a real man.
Yeah.
And a real man is magnanimous.
Yep. So to act valiantly in matters of the common interest. And then to act valiantly for the delivery of church and state.
Okay.
I
I don't know what he means by the delivery of church and state.
I'd like to hear what our listeners may think about that.
Yeah, me too. Because I'll bet some of them know.
Yeah. Number 11 is to place oneself in a position of danger for others when there's a sufficient reason for doing so.
Important caveat at the end.
A very important caveat. And I'm grateful for that caveat.
Yes.
Number 12, to be willing to be reckoned as an enemy out of love for the truth. How hard is that one?
So I have thought about this, about, it kind of starts out, what made me start thinking about this in the beginning is, you hear about communists coming in saying, they basically want you to give assent to something that is a lie. Mm-hmm. And there are people who won't do it. Mm-hmm. And it's honorable and noble that's a magnanimous act, giving their life for the sake of the truth. So the thing I've thought about is what truth
are you willing to?
Yeah. I mean, could it be something about
Here, we give this to one.
They put a blue piece of paper in front of you and they say, I want you to say that this paper is red. Are you going to die for that? It doesn't feel like I want to die for whether this piece of paper is blue or red.
Right.
But
for the sake of truth.
But I think at the end of the day, look, the truth is the truth. Okay? And it big or small, it's
I know. This is the tough. I mean, this is where prudence also comes in, right? I think prudence.
Yeah, but I also think that you just can't say this blue. It's not red.
Yeah.
You know what? Go ahead and shoot me, because that's the bluest paper I've ever seen.
Do it, Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
He really did it. He broke my arm.
He did it. I'm gonna be the patron saint of the color blue.
Oh man, yeah. So okay, so willing, I just love how he put the willing to be reckoned as the enemy out of love for the truth. I love the way he phrased that. Okay, so to deliver from oppression, to be brave in facing danger for a good cause, which he's kind of mentioned already in different words there.
Yeah.
To strike at a foe for the common good, so self-defense.
Yeah, or defense of others.
Defense of others, yeah. That one also is tough because you have to mentally already have thought through some of these things before it actually happens. Because there was a time back at, I don't know, right after college or something like that, where I saw a man kind of inappropriately kind of grab a girl, kind of grabbed her by the arm and kind of was too firm with her. Yeah. And kind of jerked her over there, and I was like, yeah. It shocked me. A little
domestic abusey.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't. They weren't married or anything, but it was just
still.
I was just like, man, that seems off. It triggered in my mind that was not good. But I had not thought through hey, what should I do if that happens?
Yeah.
And I felt like, man, I am a coward. I should have stood up.
Also, what if he's a really big dude?
Yeah.
And it's yes, I'm gonna confront him and try to put myself between him and her, and I'm gonna get beat up.
Yeah.
I'm totally gonna lose.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do it anyway.
Right.
You have to be willing. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to step into that situation.
Yeah. Okay, so number 16, the willing to surrender not only temporal but also spiritual goods and even oneself for the sake of others, provided it does not involve the loss of our soul.
I don't know what it means to surrender spiritual goods. What do you think that means?
Well, I think that it means sometimes you can suffer for and instead of receiving the grace for that suffering, you
I know what it means to surrender physical goods. I have these goods, I'm giving them to you. I'm surrendering them.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you do that.
Well, there's some souls who are destined to suffer in this life for the sake of others, to not receive the consolation that one normally would want or desire.
Sure.
To receive a lack of grace,
but it doesn't seem like they're surrendering them. They're just part of their vocation like the unique vocation of that God has given them is that like they just didn't receive them in this life. Now, they're going to receive them.
Well, this is what sometimes what fasting is, right? Like I'm fasting for the sake of my family.
Yeah, but when I think about fasting as actually gaining spiritual goods, we can move on. I'm just confused by the concept of surrendering spiritual goods. I think that's interesting.
Okay. I think that it just means like, I'm going to do a temporal something temporal for the sake of something for a spiritual good, but I don't want to receive it. I want to give it, for the sake of somebody else.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay. 17, to do our duty in grave and serious matters.
Yes.
That one also, like, to do our duty in grave and serious matters. Voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that like you should be doing.
Yeah.
That's a serious matter. That was kind of one of the first thoughts that came out to me, like, because it's easy at times, even from a local level, to be like, yeah, I'm just not going to go vote. I don't have time to go vote.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's easier to do your duty in serious matters. What I think is maybe the magnanimous thing is to do your duty in minuscule things.
Right.
It's like this actually doesn't matter a whole lot.
Right.
But it's my duty nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. For the sake of truth.
For the
whether
sake
it's
of
blue
truth.
or red.
Right, exactly. Like I think that is a
tough one.
sometimes the big things are easier to do.
Yeah. 18, to defend our institutions against attack.
Yes.
I think that's one that's probably coming our way here in the near future that we need to like really think about.
There are like plenty of institutions are under attack right now. I think about how many church institutions are like being attacked by the Jesuits, for instance. That was only kind of a joke.
We're still on Catholic radio. This is not the podcast. So
yeah, it was kind of a joke.
To be brave because of fear of dishonor.
Okay. Yep.
To be brave because of sorrow.
Okay.
To be brave because of hope.
I can do that.
That one's probably the easier one of those three. Number 22, to learn to do a thing well, and then to fearlessly do fearlessly what we have learned. To learn to do a thing well, and then to do fearlessly what we have learned.
Okay. I will not be afraid.
Well, I think. Okay, so more, like as you read through, and you learn more about the faith, right? You start realizing it exposes you to some of you. It brings to light a lot more and clarity to your life, right? And so there's some sins that you like hold on to. Because like this is my sin, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you realize, and you learn actually, oh, this is actually maybe a mortal sin, or a grave sin at least.
Right. Yeah.
And I've learned this, but like intellectually,
or a pernicious sin is like.
But then intellectually, you kind of like, oh, but this is just like something that I do, like,
just my guilty pleasure.
Right. So once you've learned it though,
which if you have a guilty pleasure, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Okay, so we're out of time on Catholic Radio. Go check us out, thecatholicmanshow.com. We're at, we have, I don't know, about 11 more to go.
Very good.
So we're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
I think we're going to get through them all.
Yeah.
We didn't think we were going to get through,
yeah.
but I think we will. What do you think, Juan?
I believe in us.
Yeah?
Let's see.
Okay. Number 22. No, I'm sorry, 23. To face dangers and the bearing of toil deliberately. That's one that's interesting. To face dangers and the bearing of toil deliberately.
Mm-hmm. You have to do it deliberately, otherwise it's not a virtue.
Intentionally.
Yeah, you have to be intentional. You have to be deliberate.
24. To show firmness of mind in the face of assaults.
Mm-hmm. That kind of reminds me of the like being willing to be considered an enemy for the sake of the truth.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to show firmness of mind. Also, like, I don't know if this is what he's actually talking about, but there are times when you have to be courageous. You have to do a great thing, and it's against what you want to do, right? And but you've already intellectually made the decision, and your will is actually in cooperation with the intellect and reason and moving forward with it, but you're still scared, right? You're still nervous and scared about that to do it, whether that be facing a boss or, I don't know, like even confronting your wife about something that's been really difficult, like that's you've been like not wanting to talk about, like conversations that you haven't had. Yeah,
just being resolved in your decisions. I think everybody probably has an example in their own life where they were going to do something until somebody like started really giving them a hard time, and then they're like, fine. Yeah,
and they kind of fold like a lawn chair.
Okay, fine, like whatever. Like if like it happens with your kids. They'll start crying. Like you're deciding, no, we're not going to do this, and they start crying about it. You're like, well, fine. Okay, fine, we'll do it. We know. It's like. That's not being resolved.
Fine, we'll have our third dessert tonight.
Yes. Fine.
Yeah. I wanted dessert.
Yeah. Just gonna wait till you went to bed. We can do it now. That actually sits well with me.
Okay. To show firmness. Oh wait, we just said that one. 25. To restrain fear in ourselves and others. To restrain fear in ourselves and others.
That kind of goes back to the idea of leadership, right? Because that's a difficult thing to do.
But it's contagious, right? Like if I have this like seed that's been planted that I want to do something brave or courageous or something great, and then I see Juan do it, and then I see you do it, I want to do like it's easier to jump in and actually make that.
It's also sort of like a good peer pressure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Which can be good, but it is difficult though to restrain fear in others. You might be able to face your fears, and hopefully that will inspire others to face theirs.
I envision like a lot of the military men like who've been who are in combat, like in the heat of battle, and one of the guys is like panicking and kind of cowering down, and the other guy looks at him and kind of slaps him in the face, and like
smacks him around.
Get it together.
Right.
We don't have time for this.
Yeah.
And then it kind of makes them snap out of it and they get going again.
Yeah. It happens in the movies all the time.
All the time. Steven Spielberg has told me this. Okay, 26. To work on the preservation. Preservation. There we go.
Yeah.
I kept saying preservation. Yeah. Thank you. Of peace in our country.
Yep.
That one's going to be harder and harder.
That's a great thing. I mean, like when you talk about pursuing greatness. Yeah. Oh, world peace.
Right.
And the problem is that sometimes you have to compromise peace to bring the truth. Right? It's like you want like avoidance of conflict is not peace.
Yeah. No, there does often at least there's an appearance of a conflict there. The truth is you can't have peace without the truth. Mm-hmm. Right? You can have a charade of peace, but not actual peace. There will not be tranquility of order, which is what peace is, if you do not have the truth.
Yep.
If you don't have things ordered correctly.
Properly. Yeah. To defend the common good in a just fight.
Very
to
good.
Stand immovable in the face of dangers.
Mm-hmm.
That's also
See, once again, a real man.
Right. To hurry to meet danger when necessary for the common good.
Okay.
30. We're on 30 now.
All right.
To be fearless when our cause is just.
Yeah.
31. To fear the Lord, but nothing else.
Ooh. I'm not afraid of you. I'm only afraid of him.
To fear the Lord, but nothing else.
Yeah, that one's good. That one's strong.
To take the offensive against those who oppose us unjustly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you can't be like a pacifist.
Right.
Like pacifists, I don't understand. Like I just don't understand them.
Me either.
I would love to actually have a discussion, not a debate or not like an attack session or anything like that on a pacifist. Fine, I'll just take it. But I would love to like talk to a pacifist and like, what do you mean by this?
Yeah, to me, it's like being a pacifist is like, you know what? It would be really nice to live in a world where we could be pacifists. Like that sounds It sounds really nice. But that's just not the world we live in.
Or what you're called to.
I mean, in the Garden of Eden, yes, like they were all pacifists, right? Like, because there was no sin, there was no reason to have to like use force on anybody. No, force was never required,
Right.
and so,
But you still had to be just.
but they just were.
Right. So I don't know if that actually. I don't know.
But
I'd have to think about that. I don't know if they were actually pacifists, because
Yeah.
I think you have to actually exercise virtue that is actually even that is opposed to
well,
just
they
the
could
nature
have
of
lived the
pacifists.
life of a pacifist anyway. I actually agree. I don't know if they still were technically pacifists.
Yeah, because they would
But
they would desire just like retributive justice.
But the idea of violence or the need for violence would have been unknown to them.
Sure.
They would have been
Well,
totally ignorant. I think
no,
that they would have been ignorant
because
of
they
the idea.
No, because I mean they're not to animals at least.
They didn't eat animals.
Yeah.
Not in the garden. They did not eat animals. God didn't command man to eat animals until after the flood.
But the animals ate each other.
That's actually debated.
Dude, I think they ate animals.
It says specifically that God gave man all of the like fruits to eat.
Sure.
And then specifically after the flood, that's when God gives animals to eat to man.
The
No.
flood?
Yeah, after Noah. Now the question is, lions are carnivores. Were they not carnivores back then?
Of course they were. Because it's in their
I
nature.
kind of think that, that's what I think. All I'm doing is saying that this is a heavily debated
Sweet.
among.
I mean, I think it's in our nature though to eat meat. And so
They
like
have canine teeth.
yeah.
But it does say in the story, the word of God,
Yes.
that we were only eating. It seems to say that in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, they were
I'd be
vegetarians.
interested to look that up. Okay.
It's in the Bible. It's a book.
Okay.
You should really check it out.
Get your copy.
Yeah, I'll get you a copy.
Sign one.
I'll get a signed copy for you.
33. This is the last one.
God.
To take witness of the faith. Number 34 is also to suffer martyrdom.
Yes! That's the one.
To take a witness of faith.
Like, if you want to be magnanimous, that's the way to do it.
To suffer martyrdom.
Just to be obviously, martyrdom is not something to be like sought out. You shouldn't go
Right.
looking for it.
Right.
But you should like be excited when it comes. Because it's the grace of martyrdom, and it is a grace,
Mm-hmm.
is the coolest.
Yeah, because you were going to heaven.
I mean, yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah. Another one in here is very Teresa Lasue-esque. It says, do great things. Do small things in a great way.
It kind of reminds me of Mother Teresa. Do small things with great love.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, I mean, he gives 120 of them.
So there's more.
There's plenty more.
The martyrdom one, that's my favorite.
But anyway, yeah. So Cyprian Mensing is his name. He's an OFM. He's a Franciscan. In 1929, he gave his dissertation at Catholic University of America on. It's called "An Activity Analysis of the Four Cardinal Virtues, suggested by the writings of Saint Thomas." Epic. It's so good. Look at this. It has a little chart in there of all the virtues.
Wow.
And how it.
A flowchart.
Yeah. Super awesome. Anyway, when I found this book,
Where did you find it?
abebooks.com.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for another book on virtue, and it's just a cardinal virtues, and that's all it said. And I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh,
Is that handwritten?
I think so, yeah."
Somebody had nice handwriting.
And I was like, "Huh, okay." It was like $10. I was like, "Yeah, I'll roll the dice on that." I didn't really know much about it, but I'm a sucker to buy books, especially on virtue.
Sure.
I'm really glad I rolled the dice.
It's almost like you do it habitually.
I have the virtue of it.
Buying books about virtues habitually.
So anyway, any last thoughts? On this?
You know,
So we went through the oppositions, like things that are opposed to magnanimity, ways to grow in magnanimity.
I think, those examples being specific are helpful to think about what magnanimity is. Obviously, you're not going to carry this book around with you as a reminder of like, oh, yes, I need to do. Now I'm looking for an opportunity to, it's like that's not what the author intended. It's just so you can get a good grasp on the concept of magnanimity, because it is a little bit of a more ethereal virtue than, saying like, oh, what is it?
Yeah, it's like, go be great. It's like,
what does that mean?
How do I do that?
So I think the best way to do it is just to be virtuous, okay? To pursue the virtues, to do what is right all the time. And there are no breaks from doing what is right. If you always do, at every moment, the right thing, the things that you don't want to do, because there are many, many times, every day, even when, like, if like you have become somewhat virtuous, there will still be things like you just don't want to do, okay? And that's where the greatness is. It's in those moments.
My late grandfather coined a phrase that said he would say it to us all the time. He would say, "You can never go wrong with doing what's right."
I like it.
See, I had heard the definition of magnanimity around achieving excellence in all the virtues. Like you haven't achieved magnanimity until you have achieved excellence in all the virtues.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true, because another way people describe it is greatness of soul. Okay.
Do you think that's true? Is that a difference in kind, or is that? I think it's just a difference in degree.
Well, I don't know. I think there's something to it, right? That you're not going to be like, okay, you might do one great thing, okay, but does that mean that you have the virtue of? No, obviously not. So greatness spans the entire scope of human activity, so therefore all the virtues are at play here. So if you're not habitually doing all the virtues, then
I mean, Aristotle says right here in his Nicomachean Ethics, it says, "What is great in every virtue pertains to magnanimity."
Yeah, so I do think that, and that's kind of what I was trying to say a second ago, is just practice the virtues all the time. That's how you achieve magnanimity. It's a little bit different. Like if you want to have the virtue of honesty, you can be very specific and intentional about being honest. Okay.
I've been lying a lot lately.
Right. But being magnanimous, there's not necessarily something specific like that for you to work on. You need to work on all of the things. Okay. And then with each virtue, as you grow in each one, so does your soul, right? And so your soul grows. That's why it's, greatness of soul is literally what it is. So that's how you really practice magnanimity, is just by being virtuous all the time.
Just stop sinning. Just don't sin.
Definitely stop sinning,
and then do great things.
Great way to start is by stop sinning. I think that's great.
I think that's where we stop.
Yeah.